So the definition of an inequality is an equation that has an inequality sign an equation that has an inequality sign instead of an equal sign. An equation that has an inequality sign instead of an equal sign. What's an inequality sign? Well, there's a choice of 4. There's this one here, the second one, third one, and the fourth one. And you've probably seen these in elementary. Did your teacher ever tell you alligator eats the bigger number? Yeah, that was great in elementary, but what do you do when there's variables? So the easiest way to remember is put out your 2 hands, and so for you it's this way. Which one looks like an L, left hand or right hand? So drop your right hand, take a look at your left hand, which is the L. What sign is that? Less than. Less than looks like an L. Less than looks like an L. That's how I tell my right and left too. Or sometimes I think of which hand I write with. So let's just talk about what these signs mean. So if you have something that looks like this, again, the problem with alligator, it's the bigger numbers. What do you do when they're variables? What this is saying to you mathematically without the words is A is greater than B. That's an inequality because they're not equal. A is more than B. Why do we need to know this? Well, there's lots of things in the world that aren't equal. Who is older, me or you? My age is greater than yours. That means your age is less than mine. Who probably has more money in their bank account, me or you? That makes me really sad, but it's probably you. So your bank account is greater than mine. So there's lots of things in the world that aren't equal to each other. That's why we're looking at inequalities. Take a look at this one. Again, these are just symbols to represent English language. And why do we use symbols? Because they're universal, right? We don't need language attached to them. Again, tell the difference between the signs. Look at your left hand. Looks like an L, which looks like an L. Less than. So this is A is less than B. What are some other words we could use instead of less than? Because we don't have to use the word less than. Smaller is a great one. What else? Tinier. Give me some more. Give me some more. Give me another word for less than, smaller. Littler. Miniature. Ooh, I like that one. High five to you. What does it mean when we put this little line underneath it? Well, this means A is greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. And we'll talk about what that means when we do some examples. Using some logic here, what do you think this next one is?
Less than or equal.
Ooh, very good. And this last little symbol, which we're not going to really talk about in this unit, but it's going to come up next year, so I want to make sure you've seen it. It's an equal sign with a slash through it. What do you think it means? Yep, A does not equal B. Yeah, A and B are interchangeable. They can be on any side they want. They're just variables. We could have X and Y. We could have P and Q. Just variables. So we're going to do this one a little bit different. We're going to do the real life stuff first. Then I'll show you the solving tomorrow. So just to get in our head, when do we use identities, inequalities? What are they there for? So an example could be in Manitoba, you must be at least 16 years old to get your license. Right? True? Okay, why is that an inequality? Why isn't that just an equation? Well, what's the key word in the question that represents an inequality? At least. At least tells you that it's an inequality. So we can say your age, and now we have 4 choices. Has to be greater than 16, can be less than 16, greater than or equal to 16, less than or equal to 16. Greater than or equal to. So there's our first situation where we're using that or equal to. Why do we have that or equal to? Because you can be 16. You don't have to be greater than 16. You can be 16 or higher. To win prizes from the Winnipeg Free Press Kids Club, you must be 14 years old or younger. Keywords in the question that tells you this is an inequality. Or younger. So your age, something 14. 4 choices, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Well, what does younger mean, greater than or less than? Less than. Then you just need to figure out if it's or equal to. So can you be 14 or can you not be 14? You can be 14, so this is less than or equal to. To ride the roller coaster at the fair, you must be more than 5 feet tall. The sign of the entrance had the expression height greater than or equal to 5 feet. Is this a correct expression for the inequality? Explain. Turn and talk. So just turn to someone sitting around you. Is this the correct expression? Okay, let's do a quick vote. Who thinks it is correct? Who thinks it is not correct? Okay, the not corrects have more votes. Let's talk about why. Keywords in the sentence. More than. Does that imply you can be 5 feet on the nose? No. So is the correct expression height is greater than or equal to 5 feet? No. The expression would have to be height something with 5. What's the correct symbol? Just the greater than. Okay, can't be 5 feet. Questions so far? Write a sentence to represent this expression. All we're doing now is just taking the answer and we're going to give the words. So this is the symbols, I want the words. So how do I express 2 times something? Well, 2 times. What do I call x? What's the word for it? What's the vocabulary word from Unit 2? 2 times a variable. Must be. Translate the symbol. How do we remember that that's less than and not greater than? Because alligator's out now. Look at your hands. Does it look like your left or your right? If it looks like your left, it is less than 12. Those are what the first couple homework questions are going to look like. The first, they're going to give you a situation. You have to write the inequality. The second, they're going to give the inequality. You have to express it in words. Now we're going to talk about something called double inequalities. Water in its liquid is in its liquid state between 0 degrees and 100 degrees. What happens at 0 degrees? It freezes. What happens at 100 degrees? It boils. That's such a great system when it's 0 and 100. Fahrenheit, I don't get it. What temperature in Fahrenheit does water freeze? Yeah, I don't know. What temperature does it boil? I don't know. 0 and 100 are just such great numbers.
After 100 degrees, does it just kind of just like disappear?
Water goes from ice to water to
Yeah, I know, but like if you
to vapor or steam.
like if you just keep bubbling water,
Yeah.
eventually it disappears.
Yep. Yeah, and then the pot runs dry, and then the pot burns, and then your mom's going to be really mad because you burnt your pot. Yeah. The key to a double equality is the word between. Double equality is the word between. And I'm going to grab my red pen. And mathematically, we express between by less than, and I'm going to put or greater than because it just, or greater to, sorry, or equal to because it depends on the situation. Then a variable, which usually we use x, but you know a variable we can use anything. And then another less than. A number goes in front and a number goes behind. That's called a double identity, and what that represents mathematically is between. So to take the words, water must be between 0 and 100, and to write that inequality, I'm going to start with the lower number, which is 0. I'm going to put my less than x less than, and now I'm going to decide, do they need the or equal to or not? So right at 0, is it still water or is it now ice? It's ice, so can it be or equal to 0 and still be in liquid form? No. What about 100? What happens right at 100? It starts boiling, so can it be in liquid at 100? No. 100. Now I know to you that looks crazy. To a mathematician, this says between 0 and 100. That's the notation for between. So when I look at that, I know that means the word between. Again, it's called a double inequality because it's got two inequality signs. To be considered a teenager, you must be over 12 but under 20. Over 12 but under 20. So I know I'm going to have this kind of configuration in the middle, and we'll figure out the or equal to's in a second. What's the smaller number? What's the higher number? And now we just have to figure out the or equal to. Can you be equal to 12 and still be a teenager? No. Can you be 20 and still be a teenager? So we don't need the or equal to sign. Why is it called a double inequality? It has two inequalities, two numbers, two signs. What does this mean mathematically? Between. So mathematically, this is saying your age can be between 12 and 20. Is that what makes you a teenager, between 12 and 20? Yes, that's where it comes from. Keyword is between. How are we doing so far? Second thing we're going to do today is just graphing inequalities. And after doing lines, these are so much easier. So if you remember way back to the beginning of the unit, to graph lines, we had to set up the axes, we had to figure out what's the scale, we had to write the units, and this is just done on a number line. So no axes, no y-axes, it's just a regular old number line. Number one, we're going to find the number in the question and we're going to put a dot there. We have a choice between what's called an open dot or a closed dot, or sometimes we call them a white dot and a black dot. So one is open, meaning it's just a circle. The other is filled in, meaning that it's darkened. What do you think the difference between those are? Well, why would we have two different ones if there was nothing between them that was different? One includes equal to, one does not. So if the symbol does not have that little line underneath, we use what's called an open dot or a white dot. If it has that little line underneath, we use what's called a closed dot or a black dot. So the very first step is we're going to put a dot somewhere. Where are we going to put it? At 3. And I'm writing it really big so you can see it. Then we figure, do we need to color it in or do we need to leave it open? So you look at the symbol, is there that bar underneath meaning or equal to? Then we color it in. If there wasn't, we would leave it white. The last step, we need to just draw an arrow in the correct location. Are the numbers that are greater than or equal to 3 to the left of 3? Are they on the negative side of the number line? Or are they on the right, on the positive side of the number line? Where are the numbers that are greater than 3, to the left or to the right? So all I'm going to do is show an arrow pointing towards the right. What that does is graphically represents all the numbers that are greater than or equal to 3. 3 is counted because it's black. What about 4? Is that shaded there on the arrow? Yes. What about 5? Yes. What about 6.7? So can I go in between numbers? Is 6.7 greater than 3? How far can I keep going up? Because the number line doesn't stop at 10. What's the largest number that's greater than or equal to 3? Infinity. That's why we have the arrow on the end. This is a picture to show me all the numbers that are greater than or equal to 3. Let's say the question just had greater than 3. How would this graph look different? The dot would be open or white. It would not be shaded in. Let's do that in words. Step number 1, place a dot on the number 9. Place a dot on the number line. It's going to be what's called an open dot or a closed dot. Or again, sometimes we call them black and white. Not being racist, just the color. An open dot is if it's just greater than or just less than. A closed dot if it's greater than equal to or less than or equal to. Step number 2, draw an arrow in the correct direction. Draw an arrow in the correct direction. We have 2 choices. The arrow is either going to go to the right or it's going to go to the left. Those are the only 2 choices. It never goes up or down. It goes to the right if the symbol is greater than or greater than or equal to. It goes to the left if the symbol is less than or less than or equal to. Where are my visual people? So take a look at this little trick. Look at the arrowhead and look at the greater than symbol. What do you see? They're the same. Look at the less than, look at the arrowhead. What do you see? They're the same. So you can actually know the direction by just looking at which way the symbol points. Okay, that's all we're going to do the rest of the day is just draw. R is less than or equal to 0. Do I care that this is R and not an X? Could care less. It's just a variable. I'm going to go to 0 and I'm going to put a dot. Then I'm going to decide, am I coloring it in, yes or no? I heard yes and no, so fight it out. How do we know if we're coloring it in? If it's got the or equal to, we're coloring it in because it means that number is included. Then we're just drawing an arrow either to the left or to the right. How do we know which direction? Greater than or greater than or equal to is to the right. Less than or equal to is to the left. Are we going to the left or to the right? And again, the little symbol tells you the way the arrowhead should point. So we are going to the left. That represents mathematically all the numbers that are less than or equal to 0. T is less than -2. We go to -2, put a dot. Decide if we need to fill it in. Is it an open dot or closed dot? Open dot. Why? Because there's no or equal to. Second step, we draw an arrow. We're either going to the left or the right. This is less than, so we are going to the left. There are all the numbers that are less than -2. Did I care this had a T and the last one had an R and the one before that had an X? Could care less, it's just a variable. Let's highlight C. They're going to try to trick you here. If you look at A and B, where was the variable? On the left. So if they try to trick you and put the variable on the right, we need to flip it. So I'm going to put the variable on the left, and I'm going to put that -3 on the right. The trick is, with an equal sign, we can just flip sides and it's okay. With an inequality, if we want to flip sides, we also have to flip the inequality sign. So instead of being negative 3 less than x, we're going to say x is greater than negative 3. So if you flip sides on an inequality, you flip the inequality sign. I'm going to say that again in words for the wordy people. If you flip the sides, you flip the sign. If you flip the sides, you flip the sign. Go to negative 3, draw a dot. Figure out if we're coloring it in. Why not? No line. Figure out the arrow. This is why it's important you understand we have to flip that sign, because if you didn't, we'd go to the left, but we want to go to the right. D. Funky notation, but it's not going to scare us because we've already talked about this. What does this notation mean? What's the word in English? Between. That's all this means. All of this stuff in here means between. It's telling you we want all the numbers that are between negative 1 and 3. So how many dots are we going to have? 2, because we have 2 numbers. So for a double inequality, draw 2 dots. So I'm going to go to the negative 1, put a dot there. I'm going to go to the 3, put a dot there. Now I'm going to figure out if I need to color them in. So the negative 1, colored or not colored? Colored. Why? Because there's an or equal to sign there. 3, colored or not? Why not? No or equal to. So this includes negative 1 but does not include 3. What do I do for the arrow? I just join them with a straight line. That's graphically showing all the numbers between negative 1, including negative 1, all the way up to 3, but not including 3. Decimals, uh-oh. What are we going to do with decimals? What are we going to do with negative 2.5? I'm going to put it in the middle. So I'm going to go between negative 2 and negative 3 and put a dot right in the middle. There's negative 2.5. Am I coloring that dot or not coloring the dot? Why not? Awesome. Where am I going to put the next dot? Between 0 and 1. Am I going to color it in? Why? What do I do with the second step? Draw a line, connect them. There's graphically all the numbers between negative 2.5 all the way up to 0.5, but not counting negative 2.5. Whew, how are we doing so far? Isn't this way easier than graphing lines? Now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to put a context to it. So here's a real life situation. The average person uses more than 324 liters of water per day. Think about that. Think about a 2-liter bottle. Show me how high off your desk a 2-liter bottle is. How many of those 2-liter bottles do you use a day of water?
Like 1,000.
So if there's 324 liters, how many 2-liter bottles do you use a day?
Like near 170.
162 of them a day. That's in North America how much water we use. And you're like, what? I can't drink that much in a day. It's not just drinking. What else do we use water for? Showering or bathing. Brushing our teeth. Flushing the toilet. Washing our hands. Washing our clothes. Watering the plants if you're into that. Making food. How many of you had craft dinner in the last week? Yeah, love craft dinner. So that's how much we use in North America. So I don't want to have to put all the ticks on a number line between 0 all the way up to 324. That would be a lot. So I'm going to put 1 tick. I don't care where it is. I just kind of pick the center. And what I'm going to write there is 324. Okay, so we're not putting all the little ticks. That's just going to take us too long. I'm going to put a dot there. Then we have to figure out from the wording, am I closing that dot in, am I coloring it in, or am I leaving it open? So does it include 324, or is it just greater than 324? More than, so that means not colored in. Now I'm going to draw my line with an arrow. Am I going to the left or going to the right? Keyword is more. More is to the right. That's a lot of water per person. We take water for granted. They figure California is going to run out of water by 2016. Mm. Yeah, they have a severe drought right now. Well, it takes millions of dollars to boil salt water for that kind of population. So. Remember the 2 days we had to boil water? What a pain in the butt that was? Yeah. Yeah. Passing grade in math is a minimum of 50%. Let's show that graphically. I'm putting a tick. Don't care where it is. I put it somewhere in the middle. What number am I going to write under that tick? 50%. Open dot or closed dot? So is the passing grade, does it include 50? Yeah. Yes. Does it include 49.9? Note that when it comes close to exam time, it does not include 49.9. No. Oh, I could if I wanted to. Does the arrow go to the left or the arrow go to the right? Where are the grades that are larger? Insurance premiums are the cheapest for people between 30 and 50. And that's true. So I'm right now cheapest premiums. Yay! Why are they more expensive for people under 30? Because they make bad choices. That's exactly right. What about people older than 50? They're smart. They've been around a long time. They're not making bad choices. Why are insurance premiums high for people over 50? Because they have more health issues. They're closer to death than people that are not under 50. So that's actually true. Cheapest when you're between 30 and 50. This is a double inequality. How do we know? Because there's two numbers. So I'm going to put two dashes, and there's no particular reason why I space them out like that. I just put one on the left, one on the right. What number am I going to put under the first one? What number am I going to put under the other one? I'm going to put a dot at 30. Do I need to color it in? Okay, that was 50-50, so let's debate that. So when it says between 30 and 50, is it including 30 and 50? Between 30 and 50. Not including. Not including. What about 50? Not including. So that's a white dot. The word does not specify 30 and 50. It just says between. What do I do with those two dots? Connect them. Car insurance, since you're all start to get driver's licenses in the next couple of years, cheapest for who? Between what ages? Cheapest for 30 to 60. Well, why is it expensive before you hit 30? Because you make bad choices. Why is it more expensive once you're older than 60? Because they don't drive as fast and cause accidents and can't see. Vlad. Like you're beginners or like the whole full thing?
I know because my friend didn't pass it.
I think that might be just beginners. And what now, once you get your real license, how long are you on probation?
A year and a half, maybe 8 years.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a year and a half. So you can't, what are the conditions now? You can't drive after, and you can't have a passenger after that time? Has to be 0, and you can't have so many accidents or something in that time?
If you have an accident, it gets taken away.
Oh, it just gets taken away.
Yeah, for